and helped unify the Norwegian nation as it moved towards independence. Roald Amundsen, since boyhood, had been fascinated by John Franklin's expedition and tragic fate to discover the Northwest Passage. And it was then that Amundsen's idea of making the first transit through was born. This was also to be a science mission. The plan was to observe the current position of the North Magnetic Pole. The Ewer was bought in Tromsø, northern Norway, in 1901. A small crew of 6 were hired, and the journey began. After 2 stops on the west coast of Greenland, Amundsen wintered in a small harbour he named Ewerhaven, and from here scientific observations were made. In 1905, Amundsen resumed the voyage and took the Ewer through the unsolved link of the Northwest Passage, and thus he had achieved his ambition. The third Fram expedition originally started going north, before Amundsen told the team he was actually going south to Antarctica. Nansen, King Haakon and Robert Scott were all informed of his plan. On the 14th of January 1911, the Fram arrived at the Bay of Whales. 9 men were to stay in Antarctica for a year, while 10 remained on board the Fram to carry out oceanic surveys across the South Atlantic. The base on shore, Framheim, came to resemble a small village with rooms and passageways where they prepared for the journey to the South Pole. The dogs were the most important factor in Amundsen's logistical plan for reaching the pole. The 116 dogs were trained in teams before the push south. On the 14th of December 1911, Amundsen and 4 others arrived at the South Pole, a momentous achievement that was celebrated around the world.